Yeah, everybody, let's get the show on the road. And kind of theme of today's show here is going to be the art of pitching. So some really good pitching this past week, and we're going to dive right into that here on the Curtain Call podcast right here on the Man on Second YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone. It was a fun week here in South Florida watching some really good high school baseball. Still seeing my things that need to be polished up. I'll touch on some themes maybe later on in this episode, but really want to drive home the point of pitching. And it was really refreshing to see some arms that not necessarily the high-powered, high velocity, which everyone's preaching and stressing, just people getting guys out, knowing how to pitch, knowing to pitch both sides of the plate, knowing how to change speeds, and that will be the focus. But before we dive too deeply, let me take care of some housework here. So please like and subscribe to the channel. And now we got this thing they call hype. Hit that hype on not just this podcast, but all my long form videos. It really helps grow the channel. I don't ask for much from my audience. I don't charge for my videos or anything, but the more you interact, like, leave comments, that helps grow this channel, and that's the aim as we really push this thing forward. But again, yeah, I just want to kind of touch on some things I really liked. And I'm going to start with Dean Jaworski at Pembroke Pines Charter, because we saw, ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest upsets in the country this week over at Pembroke Pines Charter, and they're playing Doral Academy, one of the top teams in the country. I think they were undefeated coming into this game, but Doral comes in, obviously a loaded lineup, a team that's certainly capable of winning the 6A state title, certainly capable of getting to Fort Myers. St. Thomas Aquinas in 6A, I'll have something to say about it. Pines Charter also is in 6A, and in recent years they played Doral close, but just haven't been able to win that game. That reversed earlier this past week, I should say, when Dean Jaworski hit the mound, and it was just a great team effort by Pines Charter, but Dean kind of led the charge. And Dean is, I've known Dean for several years. I've really, since day one when I saw him pitch, I think he was a sophomore at the time, he really knows how to pitch. He's not he's a left-hander whose baseball aptitude is right up there with anybody of these players I know. He really knows the game, knows how to pitch, an exceptional changeup, a sneaky fastball that he could locate up, down, both sides of the plate. He could throw this like little spike slider. He could cut the ball a little bit. And against a really powerful lineup, he struck out 7 in 6 innings, gave up 1 run, and that was a solo homer by Javen Francois, who did not miss it, almost put it on Flamingo with a long homer. But really, that was the only damage that Doral did in 6 innings. At that point, though, the homer was already 5-0 for Charter, and Dean just settled down. I think that homer was 1 out. He got the next 2 guys out, but really put on a master class of how to work away and in. He had Doral's great hitters off stride. They were really kind of floundering for something to do. I'm going to call up a video, just giving you an example of what I'm talking about here. Okay, here's Dean working with his catcher, Jack Hernandez. So you see in this first, let's see, let this recycle itself. Okay, now let's recycle. Let's get it from the top. Dean throws a changeup off the plate. You see the hitter, he kind of leans in, then he comes in, down and in with a fastball, boom, and catches him looking. That's how you do it, folks. That's how you set up a hitter. You change I think he's going to pitch me away. He's been pitching away with the changeup. And now I'm just going to kind of burrow in, down and in. I got him leaning out there. And that's kind of what Dean did all day long. Whatever Doral was, because where I'm videoing, I could hear their bench, I could hear their players, I could hear them like, let's take away the outside part of the plate. And this is why you can't necessarily do this with guys who know what they're doing on the mound. Let this be a lesson. Like I said, that changeup, boom, off the plate, that fastball down and in, certainly on the plate, rung up, caught looking. It's a thing of beauty the way you set up hitters. That's a guy knowing what one pitch can lead to the next one. This is not necessarily an intentional ball. If you wanted to chase it, let him chase the changeup, which you see to a right-handed hitter from a lefty is going to break down and away, and then he's going to just come right back in. Because I heard a number of their hitters saying, "Oh, look outside, look outside." or people say step up in the box. Okay, well, that's easier said than done. You step up in the box, he's going to ram 83 to 85, which isn't high velo, but it's got run and it's got movement on that pitch. That's not necessarily and as you see, he could throw that 85 down and in, or he could throw you a slider, or he had them confused, and that was a thing of beauty for me to watch, to just see these pitchers that know how to pitch. And Dean has always been that. And as a guy who's a little more of the undersized pitcher, he has being a lefty. When he gets up to college and he's going to small school, I think it's St. John's up in the northern part of the state. St. John's River, I think it is. Sorry, Dean, I meant to look it up before I went on. You can correct me in the comments, but he will, if his body starts getting bigger, who knows? He could be throwing 90, 91, 92 and put himself in a really good position as he matures. But right now, he's not forcing velocity. He is who he is. Now, he struck out 7. He did walk 4, and people might look and say, Joe, what are you talking about? Great pinpoint command. Well, not all those walks were wild. We're talking about base open against a really good hitting lineup, a hitter that could do damage. Are you going to give in to that hitter, or I'm going to throw him something? If he doesn't want to chase it, I'll let him walk, and I'll go get the next guy. I'm not saying he did that with all 4 of his walks, because over 6 innings and 105 pitches, you're going to walk a great, not just a good lineup, a great lineup. So I thought that was a master class. Really proud of the way Dean performed that night. And let's kind of stay on that theme as we talk about another pitcher who I've seen for many years, Spencer Krasner at Chaminade-Madonna. The Lions are playing really well, although I think they stumbled later on in the week. But I saw them. They run-ruled a great Columbus team. Talk about just, that was an upset in a sense. Not an upset that Chaminade can win, but to run-rule a power like Columbus with a D1 pitcher on the mound. But Spencer Krasner's no ordinary high school pitcher either. He's a D1 pitcher, South Carolina commit, and also a potential draft pick. Spence went 5 innings, allowed 3 hits, two run. He gave up a 2-run homer, I think, in the first to AJ Rivero of Columbus. But Spence rebound. He struck out 7. He had 1 walk. Ended up being a run rule game, so he was done after 5 innings. That's when the game ended. AJ Vargas continues to do wonderful things. Been a great player this year. 2 home runs, not just 1. I think both homers were in the same inning. And Josh Wright, I saw him get a hit, but he also hit a homer, I think, in the first inning to tie that up. And then Chaminade kind of had their way. But I'm going to break it down again. Spencer's another guy. When you talk pitching, not just throwing, Spence, if he doesn't get drafted, the scouts will say it's because his velo isn't 93 or whatever the number is. But again, here's a guy who gets guys out knowing how to pitch both sides of the plate, pitchability, can spin it, can throw changeups, can command his fastball, pitches to contact when he's not striking you out. I also want to talk about Matt Vigil, the right-hander. I think Matt's a junior for Columbus, because this was not his day. But I'm also not judging Matt Vigil as a, oh my gosh, this guy can't pitch, because it wasn't pretty. He gave up a bunch of runs in like 3 innings. But here's a guy, 92, 93, may have hit 4 or 5, along the line. Powerfully built kid. You can see why the University of Miami has a commit from him. And I showed his videos to some scouts, and they were like, whoa, forget the performance, just arm speed, size, projectability. So the thing with Matt is he tends to get wild, the repeating the delivery, and that's part of it. It's part of, wanting to be a guy who's a physical presence out there. He throws hard. He aims to throw hard, as you should when you have that kind of fastball. Once he gets a little bit more feel, repeats delivery a little bit better, I'm looking for really big things from Matt. And if Columbus gets to the 7A state playoffs, goes to Fort Myers, it's going to be because Matt Vigil is at the forefront of it. So look forward to seeing Matt and the rest of the Explorers, how they do. I've seen them now 2 or 3 times. Always enjoy watching them play. They're a very talented team, certainly a team capable of going all the way to state. So Cardinal Gibbons, I had seen them in the fall. But I hadn't seen them this season yet, so I did get to see them. It's funny how baseball is, right? Because as good as Pines Charter was against Doral, a couple of nights later, Cardinal Gibbons was that good against Pembroke Pines Charter. And the one thing about Cardinal Gibbons is still pretty young type team, and a Jason Hamilton coach team. You know they're going to be prepared. You know they're going to be fundamentally sound. When you look at them, they don't look like, oh my gosh, like some of these teams you see, like Matter Academy Charter, with these these D1 body types that come out there look like a major league or certainly a minor league type younger roster. Gibbons doesn't wow you with physicality or whatever, but they know how to play the game. They know how to execute. And when they don't, they get an earful from their coach on executing properly. And they're fun to watch. They beat Charter 9-2 that day. The standouts, starter Vic Norori, he went 4 innings with 3 strikeouts, but I have a video up of him with his just like dropping this really nice breaking ball that fell in for a called strike 3. That video is doing pretty well on my short feeds. I also do have that game up. The full game recap is up on the site as well. I encourage people to see that. But again, here's another guy. Vic knows how to change speeds. He knows how to work both sides of the plate. They know how to pitch, and that's the fun things to see. I do want to give a shout. Actually, I wanted to note that Jack Hernandez, the Pines Charter catcher, he had a hit or two against Gibbons, but he had 3 hits against Doral. I did want to get that in as well. But again, Gibbons, like I said, it's nothing fancy. There's a team that won state a couple of years ago. Certainly, they're more of a 500 team right now, but I think that's a team as we get to the second half, which amazingly we're approaching very quickly. I think that's a team that's going to grow up in front of our eyes and be very, very difficult to beat as they get down the stretch. And then talk about another pitcher. I highlighted him last week, was kind of the star of the show. Stephen Gonzalez, Matter Academy Charter. Stephen, the word is out. I mean, the scouts are in him. I had a scout I talked to from a really prominent American League team. I reconnected and was going to be down here checking out some of the big potential draft guys, and I put him on to Stephen Gonzalez as well. He had a game against Southridge. Now, when I saw him, he nearly no-hit Archbishop McCarthy. But this is when you want to see a pitcher, and don't get misled, because they're not always going to throw near no-hitters. They're not always going to retire or face the minimum for 20 batters. That's the exception. In this game at Southridge, he gives up 3 runs in the first. Defense didn't exactly help him out. Ended up being Southridge scored 6 runs, but Matter ended up chipping back and coming and winning 8-6. Stephen, rough first inning, but again, defense didn't help him. It looked like there's some errors behind him, some routine plays that should have been made that weren't. But again, this kid's calm, collected on the mound. He did get emotional because as the game built up, he got a big strikeout. He gave a good fist pump type thing. 5 2/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 6 runs, but just 2 earned, 1 walk, and it might have been the first batter he faced, 12 strikeouts. Because that's the sign of a guy that, grinded, and that's what scouts also are looking for. How are you on the day you don't have your A stuff? And Stephen Gonzalez, I'm looking forward to this kid getting drafted. It's only going to be a matter of where. We shall see. But again, when I say draft, it doesn't mean they have to be first, second, third rounds, which is kind of no-brainers for high school kids to sign. But it might be the 8th round. It might be the 15th round or whatever. You get drafted, that matters, because we'll do whole things on college. When there's 6,000 to 7,000 kids in the portal, a lot of guys that think they want to go to college or may have the good intention. Well, you may think you're going to college, but the college you think wants you may not actually want you. So that's a subject for another day. So they have a chance and they have the desire. And if there's money that's at least enough, that's tempting enough, a lot of these kids may want to go get drafted, already get that process going and get that development going. But again, Stephen Gonzalez, someone to watch, 92, 93, touched 95 already this year. But then when we talk about pitching, we would be remiss to not talk about the best that we have down here. Potential top 10 overall pick, Stoneman Douglas, the great Gio Rojas, The Eagles now have won 4 in a row. They've kind of had a shaky season, but they're kind of finding their stride. They lost a tough one to St. Thomas Aquinas a few weeks back, but have since really kind of found their step. Won 4 in a row. Geo got the nod against that Miller School. They're up there in Virginia. I think it's Charlottesville, Virginia. I've seen them play the last couple of years. This year I didn't get a chance to. They got rained out against, I guess, what's Broward. But they're coached by Hall of Famer Billy Wagner. So when you talk about pitching, you're talking to a Hall of Fame reliever. Billy Wagner's among the best that ever played the game. And Gio Rojas got that start, 5 innings, strikeouts, 7 strikeouts. I think he had 1 walk. Jake Rizzo, home run for the Eagles. 3-0 was the game in favor of Stoneman Douglas, which I said is, like I said, they are hot. They are playing very, very well. They followed that up going down to Doral Academy, and we know that down the ball flies out of there. And R.J. Ruiz of Douglas, outfielder, had 2 homers in that game. I think R.J.'s got 6 homers on the season now. Congratulations to him. 5-1. Doral, Douglas over Doral. Doral's now dropped that 2 in a row. So Pines Charter kind of softened him up, and then Douglas did what Douglas does. Again, the Douglas team, they're very interesting how this is going to unfold, because they kind of are going as I kind of anticipated. Collection of really good players. Obviously, every year there's turnover. Each team, even though they've won 5 straight state titles, each team does have their own identity. And this one's starting to find its identity. But what's helping them is they've been playing some real nail biters. You know, they beat North Broward Prep a week or so ago, 1-0, with Geo against Jack Rostock, which was a great game. Not getting a lot of hits, but they have 16 homers in 14 games. So the long ball has really been a friend of Stoneman Douglas this year, and that's a big that helps. You know, some of the other schools that aren't hitting the long ball, they may get a lot of hits, get a lot of base runners, but they're not scoring a lot of runs. Stoneman Douglas is scoring just enough. Pitching has been really good from top to bottom, and you know they're starting to get on a roll. Another team that I went and saw this past week. First time I saw them, Cooper City, because I try to go out and see as many schools as possible. So the Cowboys, I live in Cooper City, so it's a short distance to go and see Cooper City. I saw them face Monarch. They won that game 11-4. Cooper City's very young. They got a freshman named Cooper Borzen, who I was told about. Go see Cooper Borzen play. And you can see why. Really good player. Had 2 hits that game. Swings about well, runs well. He's very promising future. They also have a good catcher, a sophomore named Damian Lopez. Keep an eye on Damian. He's somebody that really handles that pitching staff. And I think the Cowboys are 8-4. So good for Cooper City. I covered quite a bit of teams right here. Just some observations before we get out of here today. About when you're facing some of these pitchers, because we've highlighted the pitchers here. And we got, like I said, we got down here in South Florida power arms. We got arms that are crafty, like Dean Jaworski. And just for good measure, let's throw Dean up there again. Let's see that. Like I said, sets up, change up away. And then he gets some. Wait, I'm going to lean away. No. He comes running in, down and in, strike 3. Take a seat. Again, yeah, great stuff there. So what do you do if you're a batter? I gave the pitching perspective because what we've seen, and it's not from one school. It's pretty much all schools, and it kind of trickles down from the big leagues. There's so much patience. There's so much emphasis on walking, getting that perfect pitch. But so you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, he has an approach. He has an approach," and it's great if you have an approach. It's great if you show patience. It's great if you got a good eye. But along with an approach, and this might be a headline for a podcast for another day, you can't just have an approach. You also need a plan, because your approach doesn't fit for every pitcher you're facing or every team you're facing. Case in point, when you're facing some of these, D1 arms that are throwing mid-90s, as I've seen a number of hitters, not seniors, but my focus on, I'm not going to mention a kid's name, but he's a younger player, freshman or sophomore. I've mentioned him before. Really a big fan of this player whose stats aren't super great, but I'm not too worried because the kid knows how to hit. But he has a great approach and a patient approach. But if he had a better plan, he was facing a pitcher throws pretty hard. He literally, in like a 2-0 count, takes a fastball down the middle. That's what you swing at. You have to realize not every pitcher is exactly the same pitcher. You're going to see if you're facing Paul Skeens compared to a fifth starter, you're going to have a little different plan for that pitcher. Not everyone, if you're facing a closer who throws 102 miles an hour, a Mason Miller type, you're going to have a different plan for him than a closer who's throwing 92, relying more on off speed. So if you find yourself, you might only get against a power arm or some of these pitchers who are hot, having a really good day, you might have only one pitch to hit. And that pitch might be that 2-0 fastball down the middle that you just took, thinking that's okay. Once I get to 2 strikes or whatever, then you get to strike, full count or 2-2, and they elevate in the zone. You swing under it, or you're way late because you didn't have the plan. You have to recognize it's not just about you and your approach and what you're doing. The guy you're facing, and same thing with pitchers. You're going to have a hitter because not every hitter is capable of hitting the ball 400 feet or putting the ball, over the fence or putting it on the Flamingo Road or one of these other, city schools that, tend to be over the fences of where we live. It's like, have a plan for these pitchers. If you're up against the good ones, if you're facing Gio Rojas, if you're facing Ivan Sabater throwing 95 over at West Broward, and he throws you a hittable fastball in a favorable hitter's count, and you look at it, that might be the best thing you see from that guy all day. And there's no guarantee you're going to hit that well. You might foul that off. But I know one thing, you're not going to hit it if the bat's on your shoulders because you're always looking for a better pitch. So at some point, and I get it. I know at the big leagues, they'll sit around and say full count. They play the odds and percentages. If you take 55 or 60% of the time, it's a ball. So play those odds. You could put the bat on your shoulders all day and draw a walk every 8% of the time and never swing the bat. But if you want to be a hitter, you're going to have to know when to hit. So have a plan to go with the approach. That is my message for the day, my little sermon, because I have to get in my soapbox to make me feel good, to get stuff off my chest. I'm going to say one last time for the great Dean Jaworski. Dean, you're the man, bro. That was great. Masterclass on how to pitch. Sorry for my Doral people watching, but that's the thing. You face Dean in district, you're going to have a different plan because it's easy to say, oh, let's just take him to right field. Let's just take him to right field. Well, look at this pitch. How are you taking this pitch to right field? Because guess what? He knows you want to take him to right field. So he's going to know, he's going to play that cat and mouse game with you. That's the beauty of baseball. It's nuances. It's not just all percentages. It's not just all algorithms and metrics. It's knowledge. And that's one thing. Please become students of the game, young guys that are playing this sport, or girls who are playing softball, or whomever is playing baseball, softball. You become student of the sport that you're doing. But before we get out of here, again, please like and subscribe to the channel. The podcasts are going well. The whole channel is crushing it. Pushing. It's Sunday. I'm going to get over 800,000 views already for the month. It's going to be another easily probably going for a 1.5 million view month, if not more. But we'll see. We got spring break now and not games every day, which affects content. But Man on Second is on all the time. So everyone, again, thanks for all the support on the channel. It's always fun to do these podcasts, catching up with you people. Great to see the parents and the kids and the players and the coaches when I'm at the games. And again, thanks for all the support. Man on Second ain't slowing down. It's only growing. And thanks to everybody. And we will catch